These West Coast road trips can be brutal. At the very least, at least the Red Sox were able to finish this one strong. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin. The Boston Red Sox have officially ended their 9-game West Coast road trip, taking 2 out of the 3 games in their last series against the Arizona Diamondbacks. This road trip in general wasn't exactly fantastic. The Red Sox are coming out of it 4-5 for their first West Coast road trip of the year, and this series in general had a lot of ups and a lot of downs. So what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to break down this latest Red Sox series. We're going to talk about the good in this series, we're going to talk about the bad in this series, and we're going to talk about how this series could affect the 2023 season. But before we get into that, do me a favor, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. As always, let's start by talking about the offense, and in this series in particular, there were a lot of ups and a lot of downs. It felt like there were more positive than negatives, but the negatives were still there and they were still very present. As for the positives in this series, Kike Hernandez went 2 for 9 with 3 RBIs and 3 walks, which is actually a pretty decent stat line for how Kike has been hitting lately. He also had a home run in this series as well. Kike is such a streaky hitter that if he can get hot here, it would be absolutely massive for this Red Sox team, because it would probably last over the next couple of weeks, and in those next couple of weeks we are playing Cleveland, Tampa, and the New York Yankees, so this is kind of the perfect time for Kike to heat up. Hopefully that stays going. Tristan Casas had a really great series at the plate as well. He went 5 for 13 with 1 walk, so not a ton of RBI production for Casas, but Casas was all over the bases in this series, something we really haven't seen all year from the young prospect. It's something we've kind of been waiting for. Usually in the past, as Tristan Casas has moved up through the levels of the minor league system, it's taken him a month or two to really get going at the plate. Hopefully this is the start of that. We already mentioned in a full breakdown video just how close Tristan Casas is to breaking out. Hopefully this is the beginning of that. Justin Turner had a really nice series in this one as well, going 4 for 14 with 2 RBIs and a home run in this one, in the 3rd game of the series, that if it was one batter earlier would have been a grand slam, but hey, stuff happens. Big Red has been one of the players in the last couple of games that has been on a bit of a slump, so to see him produce in this latest Diamondback series is really great news for this Red Sox team. And what's even better news, in my opinion, is the fact that he's back to making really difficult at-bats, right? 3, 5, 7, 9 pitch at-bats that are really difficult on pitchers. And what Big Red tends to do is when he starts going like that, it's infectious for the rest of the offense. So that was a really great thing to see in this series. Massa also had 4 hits in this series. He's just making great contact all over the place, right? I would like to see those power numbers increase just a little bit. It was mostly singles, and his last home run came against the Blue Jays on May 4th. But outside of that, Masataka Yoshida is quite literally an elite hitter at every other angle. Connor Wong has been swinging in this series as well. He ended up with a couple of doubles of his own, and Alex Verdugo came back to life a bit in this one. He had 5 hits, 2 RBIs in this series. My favorite part of this series for Doogie was with the bases loaded, he was able to take a pitch deep into the zone and drive it the other way. This is when Alex Verdugo really is at his best, is when he's spraying the ball to all fields, and that was something we really weren't seeing a ton of during his mini slump here as well. It seems like all he needed was to go home to Arizona, have his family around him to get back into shape. I'm really fully confident that Alex Verdugo will get back to what he was doing at the beginning of the year for this Red Sox team. Overall, like I said at the beginning of this segment, the offense was really up and down. They had a great first game of this series, and you did have a lot of really good performances from guys who were really struggling at the plate coming into this series, so that was really great to see. The second game of this series, they weren't hitting as well, but they were able to scrap some runs across the plate via sacrifice bunts and really small ball baseball, which was fun to see. But at the same time too, you probably could have gotten the sweep in this series had you been able to put runs across the plate in the 3rd game of this series, which you had all the opportunities to do so. A couple of things that I want to talk about negatively on this offense right now are Jarren Duran and Rafael Devers. Rafael Devers is the centerpiece of this Red Sox lineup, and it's not that he's not getting pitches to hit, it's just that he's not being able to handle those pitches, right? He's sort of swinging straight through them or grounding balls that he would normally send 450 feet. So that's something to really look at for Rafi. Granted, he was only in one of these games, but he did go 0 for 5, and he is dealing with a bit of an injury after trying to steal home in the Angels series. So two things to keep your eye on: Rafi at the plate and Rafi's health. The other person I want to call out is Jarren Duran, who has been really tough at the plate lately with a lot of strikeouts. He's still able to put the ball in play, and he's still being able to sort of cause havoc on the base pass, but he's just not getting on base at the rate that we want him to, and that strikeout rate is definitely concerning. So like I said, a lot of ups, a lot of downs, but I think overall in this series, it was really good to see guys like Justin Turner and Alex Verdugo start producing for this Red Sox team, because that's something we've been missing over the past couple of series. As for the pitching in this series, I'd say for the most part, it was really good. We'll get to the most part in a second, but let's start with the starting pitching in this series. And game 1 saw Chris Sale, who, by the way, was battling a stomach bug the entire time and was still able to put up 5 innings, only 1 earned run on 5 hits, and striking out 3 while walking only 1 batter. This is another really impressive start for Chris Sale. Now, maybe not as impressive as the last couple, but if you take into account the fact that he was sick the entire time, it is still a really impressive start. And his last 5-6 starts in a row have been fantastic. It is great to see Chris Sale sort of turn the page on the first month of this season and really come into true form, because that's exactly what this Red Sox team needed. In game 2, we saw the triumphant return of Garrett Whitlock from the injured list, and he had a really good outing as well. He allowed just 3 hits and 1 earned run in 5 innings of work while striking out 4. Again, a really impressive performance from Garrett Whitlock. One of my favorite things about this performance was his changeup. I mentioned it in a live stream last week, but Garrett Whitlock's changeup looks completely different, and it looks almost unhittable, which is fantastic, right? Because that's what we were used to seeing from Garrett Whitlock. One of the things that was really plaguing him as a starting pitcher was his velocity on his fastball was down, so the changeup really wasn't that big of a change in velocity. For him, he wanted to get back to having that sort of dominant, really speed differential change in his changeup, and he was able to rework that, and so far it looks really great. This is a guy who I'm extremely excited about to see sort of how he progresses and settles into this rotation. And finally, in game 3, we saw Tanner Houck, and Tanner Houck really had the only kind of bad performance in this series by a pitcher. He ended up only going 4 innings, allowing 4 earned runs on 6 hits. He was able to get 4 strikeouts, and he didn't walk anybody. What was really interesting to me about this start is that it was kind of the polar opposite of what we've been used to from Tanner Houck, right? Normally it's, okay, he's really great through the first 3 innings, but then he sort of tapers off in the 4th, 5th, and 6th. In this start, he was really poor in the first 2 innings and then really put it together in his last 2 innings. So I don't know if it had something to do with his being on 5 days rest for the first time in a couple of weeks. I don't know if it has something to do with them figuring out a way he was tipping pitches, or if he just simply ran into a bad game. But either way, Tanner Houck did not finish this series very strong. But overall, in terms of starting pitching, I think there's a lot of really good takeaways in here, right? Chris Sale having another dominant performance, and even having a dominant performance battling through a stomach bug is really impressive. Garrett Whitlock coming back into this rotation, 1, finishing the game healthy, and 2, looking a lot better in terms of his movement on his pitches is a fantastic revelation for this Red Sox rotation. And of course, Tanner Houck kind of ended it on a sour note, but again, starting pitchers are going to have tough games every once in a while, and it looks like Tanner Houck just ran into one. I'm not too concerned with Tanner Houck and his performance. As for the bullpen in this one, I would say overall they were really strong. I have to tip my cap to Nick Pivetta, who ended up going 3 innings in the last game of this series. He only allowed 3 hits, no earned runs, and struck out 3. I really hope he sort of embraces this bullpen role, because I really think he could be pretty good in it. He looked really good in this series. He was up to 96, 97 on his fastball, and I think that's going to be the biggest plus for Nick Pivetta in this bullpen, is that his velocity is going to tick up. Joely Rodriguez had a decent outing in this series as well, which is fantastic because he's been struggling really hard on the mound so far this year. Obviously, again, small sample size, so to see him hopefully turn that around and figure it out early would be great. You had great performances from Cutter Crawford, who, by the way, is okay. He just got a bruised ankle. He should be fine in the next couple of days. Don't expect an IL stint from Cutter. Roadtrip. Chris Martin continues to look absolutely fantastic in that 8th inning role. This is a guy who needs to see more innings. I don't know if it's something that Alex Cora is worried about his workload, or he's worried about the injury he sustained at the beginning of the year or something like that, but Chris Martin has been insane since coming back from the IL, and he is definitely a guy that I want to see more and more in the 8th inning for the Sox going forward. Kenley got a smooth sailing save for the first time in what feels like 4 performances, right? The last 3 have either been blown saves, or they have been rough outings, or they've been kind of rocky saves. This was the first sort of clean save he's had in a while, basically since his 400th. So it's really great to see him come out and sort of get back into shape. It's clear that he is starting to right the ship and try and figure out exactly how to get saves again, which is fantastic for this Red Sox team, right? I think overall, the bullpen in general was fantastic. They looked really good. I think only Josh Winkowski gave up an earned run in this series, but he still looked really great on the mound. So overall, no complaints here for the bullpen in this series. So I think overall, when it comes to this series in total, we can count it as a pretty good victory, right? The Red Sox took 2 out of 3 from the Diamondbacks, who are the second best team in the NL West, right? They're playing really good baseball right now, so to take 2 out of 3 of them is a win. Although I weirdly am not super positive about this series win, and I think it has a lot to do with being swept by the Angels, right? It almost felt like the Red Sox needed to sweep the Diamondbacks to win this road trip, and they just didn't. It's still a fairly positive record coming out of this road trip, but it definitely could have been a lot better if they had just won one singular game against the Angels. So there is a bit of a sour note coming out of this road trip, but it is a really positive takeaway that the Red Sox went from being swept by the Angels to coming back and winning 2 out of 3 from the Arizona Diamondbacks. And I think overall there were a lot of positive takeaways from this series. The Red Sox are headed back home. They're going to face Cincinnati, Tampa, Cleveland, and then New York in that order, not all of them at home. So it's going to be a bit of a rest day tomorrow, and then a little bit, hopefully, of an easier series against Cincinnati, and then you are entering a gauntlet for a couple of weeks. So this is the time for the Red Sox to get hot. Let's see what they do. Anyways, that is just my opinion on the Red Sox right now, so I want yours in the comment section down below. Let me know what you thought of this latest Red Sox series. What did you like? What did you not like? And how do you think this West Coast road trip is going to affect them going forward? Let me know all your thoughts on the current state of the Boston Red Sox in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.